I'm going to go ahead and get us kicked off officially because this is our first chess club, our first 5D chess club of 2026. So, welcome everyone. And for those of you who are new, I want to let you know that this 5D chess club is a free monthly gathering, and it's designed to bring us together on a grassroots level. It's designed to help us share information with each other and connect with each other and support each other. And I'd like to bring on guests every now and then who are doing great works for humanity, like our guest tonight. And I want to make it really clear that 5D Chess Club is not about politics. And I know that term 5D chess gets thrown around a lot in the political world, but for this group, I'm using the term 5D chess more as an analogy for our experience, our multidimensional experience that our souls are going through within this reality structure. And having the last name Bishop, I use the little Bishop chess piece as my logo. So it's really more of a play on words in that sense, but we're not really talking about a political party or anything like that. We're looking at things from a much bigger perspective, from a humanitarian perspective, and how we can come together and make the world a better place. And so I'd like everyone to go ahead and mute right now, just so that we don't have any interference or background noise. I also want to let everyone know that traditionally I've kept 5D Chess Club a little protected to just people in my practice. And that was to make everyone feel safe in sharing. And I'm going to keep it that way for our private sessions when we don't have guests. But when we do have guests, I really want to open this up to everyone because everyone should have this information. And I don't want that to be a barrier anymore. So that's why I'll be sharing some of these videos on a large, the recording at least, to a larger audience. And some people email me and say, I want to be a part of Chess Club, but I can't get in to have an appointment with you for a month. And again, I don't want any of that to be a barrier anymore. So I'm kind of taking that down, those restrictions. But I will continue to not record our chess clubs when we don't have a guest, so everyone can feel safe and secure and like their privacy is protected and that they can share openly. Because a big part of this is to feel safe in sharing your own experiences and asking questions that you want to ask. Now, as I'm opening this up, the only rule is you have to come in with an open mind and an open heart and respect for everyone. That is really the whole point. I actually don't want a group of people that all think the same. The beauty is that everyone thinks differently. And the way we're going to create solutions for our planet is actually coming in together with different perspectives and different ideas and a different mindset. So all of those mindsets are welcome. We just want to be open-hearted and open-minded and respectful to everyone and everyone's individual experiences. And as we gather here tonight, like I said before, we are the change that we want to see in the world. And we need to be doing this from a grassroots perspective and not thinking that something or something outside of us is going to make the changes for us. And the guest I have for us tonight is a shining example of this, of someone who has completely taken initiative. She's taken her intuitive gifts and used them to make a positive change for our entire collective, and most importantly, for our children. And if there's anything that's going to unite us, it's going to be creating a safe and enriching world for our children and future generations. So it's really my honor tonight to introduce Sherri Divband. She's our guest, and Sherri is an energy healer. She's the founder of the Aramis Creative Learning Center and the nonprofit Aramis Collective, and she's the author of several books. And she is on a mission of elevating our planet and empowering people to tap into their true potential and discovering their innate abilities to heal the mind, body, and soul. So welcome, Sherri. One of the things I love about your work is there's a lot of parallels in the things that I do, and we use a lot of different terminology and different words, but we're actually saying the same thing. And so I love hearing, the way you explain the work that you do in your energy healing practice and everything that you're creating and building for our children. So please go ahead and share anything that I may have missed in your bio and give us a little bit of background about what's brought you to this point in your journey.
Well, thank you for having me and thank you for the attention of all of your beautiful guests. I don't know how many of you guys even know who I am or know anything about me. So I guess I'll just pretend like none of you know who I am. My story is long, so I'm gonna abbreviate. I've been working on abbreviating this intro for probably a decade now, and it keeps changing. But basically, I started out as a registered veterinary technician, so my background is with animals. And so, starting in high school, I proclaimed that I was going to heal all the animals of the world. I was a lonely child. I was born to teen parents, and they never had more children, and they never stayed together. And I endured a significant amount of various traumas, which I won't go into today. We'll keep it light. We'll keep it light. But a German Shepherd came into my life, and I think that she came into my life to basically save me and to help me through those traumas. And so she became my best friend, and because of her, I developed a really close connection to the animal kingdom, and I noticed something really profound from a very young age. That animals gave unconditional love, and I noticed that people did not. And that's a profound connection to make from the young age of like 5 years old. And so I really started to pay attention to the world around me. And I was very shy, very quiet, bullied a lot. We moved around a lot. And my one consistency was the German Shepherd that I had at the time. And she always, no matter what, she was always there. Every time we moved, she was always there. Every time I was bullied, she was always there for me. As I could cry on her shoulder, or I would hug her. And so I decided that people in the world were mean, abusive, narcissistic, horrible, because that was my experience with pretty much everybody, even children my age were bullies, mean, made fun of me. And so I had come to this conclusion that people were awful and animals were beautiful and kind and considerate and gave unconditional love. And I wanted to be part of the animal kingdom. So as a young girl, I said, I'm going to heal all the animals. Kind of in a naive state, I decided I wanted to go into veterinary medicine. But then I realized really young that the veterinarians were the ones that were working with the people, and the technicians, which are nurses, were in the back with the animals, kind of, in my opinion, having all the fun. And I was like, well, this isn't fun for me. And so I decided very quickly that I wanted to work as a nurse. So I worked in the veterinary field for 20 years, 20 plus years. I worked in general practice. I worked in the intensive care unit. I worked in critical care, emergency surgery. And then I ended up in the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. For 10 years. So I worked in the National Zoo for 10 years. Working with exotic animals because that was kind of my ultimate goal. I really loved elephants, and to this day I think of elephants as my animal spirit guides. And so I was really just trying to work with them. I was like, how can I get to that point? And so I worked at the National Zoo in the hospital for those 10 years. And I worked my way up into management and did hospital management and program management. But through that time, I had children. And so I have to rewind the story because up until I had children, I was, again, still like the animals were kind of my sanctuary. So I just closed myself off to people, and I was kind of one of those really angry, bitter young women. And I went through a destructive period of my teen years where I just hated everybody. And then I got stronger as I got older, and then I was like, all right, well, I'm going to fight you before you fight me type of mentality, and just kind of a nasty person. But when I was with animals, I felt I could be myself and I could be safe. So I was living kind of like two different lives. Like one when I was working and then one when I was outside with people. I was a completely different person. So I met my husband now. We've been together for almost 24 years, and I say he saved me from myself. Uh, and he put me on the right path. Like he basically like broke me out of the spell that I had put myself in of anger. And a couple of years later, I had my first son, and we had a son together. I was 23 at the time. And that child opened up my heart in a way where I felt unconditional love that I had never felt before other than with animals. So that was the second time in my life that I felt unconditional love from anything but an animal. And I was like, whoa, what is this feeling that just came through me? And it completely changed everything about me. I decided, oh my gosh, I am living this delusional life and I'm in anger and I'm creating these loops and cycles for myself. And this is crazy. And I wanted to become a better person for him, but I also looked at the world differently. Like he came through me and made me look at the world in a different way. And so I started to look at people through the eyes of compassion instead of bitterness and resentment and judgment. And I thought, maybe other people in the world had traumas like me, and that's why they're bullies. Maybe they were beaten, so maybe that's why they are nasty to other people. Maybe they were molested, maybe this, maybe that. And so my whole entire outlook on life changed because of this child that I had, and it completely opened up my heart. So while I'm working with animals, I'm now a mom and growing. My compassion is growing, and then my psychic abilities just turned on. And all of a sudden now I'm like all these psychic abilities are coming to me, and I'm communicating and I'm seeing and I'm now talking to animals. And I started an animal communication business and I started doing animal sessions and healing. And I learned to do animal healing so that I could help animals heal on the side with my business of animal communicating. And I got kind of tired of doing that and burnt out because every time someone would hire me for a session to heal their animal with behavioral issues or some sort of disease or chronic issue, the animal would always tell me that most of the time that they were taking on the illness of their, human companion,
Mm.
or mirroring their behavior to teach them something. And me being a shy person that was kind of already introverted and not comfortable talking to people, like that put me in a really awkward position because I'm thinking to myself, how am I supposed to be brave enough to tell this person that the animal message is basically saying you're the problem, but in a very compassionate, kind way. So that was a real struggle for me. And over time, I realized what the animal kingdom was trying to do was to push me and well, guide me lovingly and gently to work with people because I was supposed to work with people the whole time. And all the traumas I went through was to prepare me for the work that I do now. And the animals were kind of the nurturers and the supporters and my guides throughout that process. And then I had another son 7 years later, and he was another part of my awakening. And I became even more psychic and more abilities came through, and I started working with people. And through those sessions, working with people, doing Reiki and energy healing, I started to do hypnotherapy. I started to do all of these other things, and I started to communicate with galactic beings, and their guides would come through, and I started to see past lives. And again, I was in another awkward position because these people would come to me for a basic Reiki session, and I would be seeing them being burned at the stake or a horrific past life where they were drowning, or I mean it wasn't always bad, but then I was like, oh my gosh, am I supposed to tell this person what I'm seeing right now? I don't understand what's happening. To like, what do I do with this information? So I've been put in many awkward positions throughout my growth period of trusting in my knowing of, what do I do with all of this. Stop me if you have questions, or if because there's so much to the story. I could just maybe I should just pause and see if there's questions, because I can just keep going because we're only halfway through the story.
Yeah, no, Sherri, this is great. I think your background is really helpful and it's so relatable too. Part of what I like to bring forward is that we're all healing from traumas. And everyone has a unique journey and a unique path in doing so. And your path with becoming a mother and healing with animals, and then having all of your intuitive gifts really kick online is so interesting. It's a wonderful journey, and I would love for you to share some of the things that come through in your healing sessions that you think could really help people today.
Yeah, do you want me to finish the story and then talk
Yeah,
about what I
yeah,
do
finish
then?
the
Okay,
story.
because that will tie it into today. So, okay, so fast forward a year before my daughter was born, or conceived or thought of. She came to me as a soul and said, I'm coming into your life and you need to be ready. We have a big journey together. And I need your permission and your consent that you are ready and willing to help me in my life journey. It's going to be, we have a big journey together. And at the time, I'm like, yeah, heck yeah, like I'm ready, because that spiritually at that point, I was, I had come a long way. I was helping a lot of people. I was very comfortable in my healing practice, and I was comfortable in who I was, and I was like, I'm ready for this. I don't know what we're going to do together, but I'm ready to bring in this divine soul that's coming through. So I started channeling her often. And what I mean by that is telepathically, she would come through and I would receive messages from her and I would write it down. And she taught me pretty much almost everything I know about New Earth children. And she explained to me about the new waves of children that were going to be coming through the planet and why they were coming in, why they were different and unique, and the different types of children, and the reason they were coming in differently, and kind of the purpose of for them to come through. And I needed to know all of this. Uh, about a year and a half later, she was born, and I still didn't know until several years later what we were meant to do together because she was a baby, and I needed to take care of a young baby. So it didn't become it didn't become I didn't realize what we were meant to do together till much later. So, anyways, I continued to do soul readings. I opened up a wellness center and I quit the zoo and I decided I'm done. I didn't want to work at the zoo anymore. I had an internal conflict at that point in my life of I didn't want zoo. I didn't like animals being in the zoos anymore. So I had to quit. I needed to get out of there. I was like, I can't stomach this anymore. These animals shouldn't be here. Everything about me changed. The way I looked at everything was changing, and so I knew I was being prepared for to birth something completely new. And so when my daughter came into my life, I started attracting clients that were parents that had nonverbal children, or who were labeled autistic, and or wouldn't look at people in the eyes, were developmentally delayed, and they would came to me and said, "Can you heal my child?" That's how it all started. I became known in my area at my wellness center as the woman who talks to nonverbal children. I don't know how that happened. It just happened. And the crazy thing, unbeknownst to me at the time, was that I had no idea I was being prepared for something much bigger. Because through the sessions, I would communicate with the higher selves of these children who were labeled autistic and nonverbal, and even those that were verbal, but I would communicate with their higher selves, and they were telling me a lot of the things that my daughter had already told me years prior about this new waves of children coming through, and they were going to struggle and they were going to have a really hard time and they weren't going to fit in, and they were going to be here to teach us many lessons in many different ways. And here I am working with these children, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she was preparing me to know how to work with these children. And so throughout all this time, I'm writing books, and I decided I'm going to open up a metaphysical center for children. That was my big grand idea. I was like, okay, that's what Aramis and I are here to do together. I'm going to open up a metaphysical center for children, and I'm going to teach families and parents how to communicate with their children and how to teach children from a young age what energy is, how to heal yourself, how to work with crystals, and just the metaphysics, because you don't learn that in school. That we don't get taught that in school. Well, as my daughter is getting older, she is developing riddle like really bad panic attacks and anxiety, and she was struggling a lot in school. So what I realized is that what our role together was that I was supposed to create a new type of education system, that was going to be built around this new Earth children. And so I was like, oh, that was my aha moment. I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I'm supposed to do. Because I realized public school is not working. It's not a one size fits all approach anymore. And all of my clients were having children struggling in school. They were not fitting in the box anymore. They were the rebels, or they were having learning disabilities, and they were considered abnormal. But there were reasons for all of those things. And they were actually not developmentally delayed. They were actually quite advanced and psychic, and they were being misinterpreted and misdiagnosed. And so all of this is happening at the same time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I am here to shift the trajectory of education for children. And that's what Aramis was talking about. So I started a nonprofit, called it the Aramis Collective, and I started a learning center called Aramis Creative Learning Center around the time of COVID. So it's been about 5 years, and it's online and virtual, and we teach families, parents, and children through various classes with different mentors all about the things metaphysical and esoteric and mindfulness and conflict resolution and how to work through your emotions and channel. And then on top of that, I do soul readings and one-to-one sessions with adults and children, navigating the challenges of our awakening and what the ascension means, and how past lives and bleed throughs are occurring, and timeline wars, and that has led me to become a public speaker, which is where you and I met. And I've written now 5 books, 10 children's books. We're here in Florida to open up our first physical school that will be the first model, that will be one of hopefully one in every state and an international. So it'll be the New Earth Schooling. That is just one concept of conscious education. There are probably going to be many more concepts, but ours is very unique. And that, so right now, what I do is I help people through their transition and their activation, one-to-one sessions, and then I work with children, and then I have my school that I'm trying to get open. And I do public speaking, and I'm an author. So I do a lot of different things. My hands are in a lot of different pots. And so that's kind of the gist of the story.
Oh my gosh, Sherri, you're amazing. Just amazing. And you are, like I said earlier, this shining example of someone that saw the problem in the world, knew you had a calling, listened to it, followed it, and you've created this solution that is one of the biggest problems that we have is the educational system for our children. And when I saw you on stage years ago, you were so passionate and your heart just shined through on this passion for creating this world for children where they understand metaphysics and they understand how energy works. And one of the things I'm always teaching people is energetic hygiene. We don't learn those things in school. And you said something that stuck with me for years. You said school is an anagram for Loosch, and you were describing like the lights in the school and how it's set up like a prison and all of these things. And oh my gosh, I mean, I walked away from that talk just blown away with all the information that you shared. And not only that, but all of the work and dedication that you put into Aramis. How can people, what do you recommend we do as parents and as responsible citizens who want to make the educational system better for children? How do we support you? How do we become a part of this or engage with it so that it becomes more widespread?
I mean, I think it's about recognizing first that there is actually a problem. So there's a good percentage of the population that does not agree with what I'm saying and thinks that public school is incredible, and they're in highly academic driven families, and they don't see a problem, and their children do just fine, and they thrive, and they go through the system. And there are a lot of people that are, and I guess I can say this to this group because you said everybody's pretty awake and open to all concepts. There are a lot of NPCs out there. There are a lot of people that are very indoctrinated. So we have had generations and generations through epigenetics, through quantum entanglement, and through the indoctrination system, which I refer to in my books called 3D interference. There are a plethora, too many to count, ways that they program us, and they limit us, and they have created or cultivated and terraformed a reality historically, where we are in the box thinkers, we are sheeple, we follow the person in front of us, and we are in these prison style schools, which is a Loosch system, which it is an anagram for Loosch. Basically, what that means is that the energy that is harvested off of our children, the creativity and the drive and this just the passion and the energy that they come in, the vibrancy that they come in with, they don't walk out with that, is all harnessed from them through the fluorescent lighting, the prison style setup, the voice to skull technology, the grid systems that are set up around the schools, the gifted and talented programs, which are actually secret space and government programs that create lists so they know what children have what capabilities so that they can be utilized in ways that people have absolutely no idea. They created the labels of autism and dyslexia and ADHD to negate the gifts of these children coming through and to create a nefarious label. So they created a narrative around, okay, we know these starseeds are coming in because what's happening is every generation, which is what Dolores Cannon started talking about with the 3 waves of volunteers. Volunteers essentially are awakened souls that are not part of this recycled soul trap system that have been stuck here in this 3D terraformed reality. And when I say terraformed, I don't mean flat Earth. I just mean the Matrix. I'm not a flat earther. That have been trapped in this reality, in this heavy, dense programming. Every generation, we've had volunteers that have come through to activate the DNA because dormant or junk DNA is not dormant junk DNA. It's really what it is. It's our it's part aspects of our density of consciousness that have been dormant or turned off nefariously on purpose through genetic modification as well as through the programming, which I told you is too numerous to count and explain right now. And um, we've been modified so much. So the children coming in, every generation that's come in since the early 1900s is meant to slowly activate and awaken enough and activate the body and that dormant DNA so the next generation can come through with a higher frequency, a higher density of consciousness, a higher knowing, and even more depth to activate and awaken and then bring in the next. So we have all these generations coming through, and after the year of 2000, is when we really had an influx of children coming through that are the change makers. So everyone in this category right here in this group are all indigos in some level. So pretty much everybody here is an indigo, just a matter of what phase of an indigo are you? So there's a lot of misconceptions of what indigos are. And then the next wave after that are the crystal children that started coming in around the year of 2000 or the end of the 90s, and they came to open our hearts like my first son, and open up the hearts of humanity. So they're playing these roles, they're activating us and awakening us, and they're here to help break down the paradigms, and help us activate as adults that are the NPCs, the other ones, the ones that are closed off and buying into the narratives and the agendas, who are completely programmed and asleep, to help activate and awaken them, so that we can recognize that there is an issue. So taking education, for example, and this is true for the medical system, education system, political system, monetary system. So there are paradigms, all of these paradigms, they are all collapsing, and these children are coming in waves to activate the adults so that we recognize there is an issue in all of these paradigms and all of these systems, that have been structured in a way that all represent control. We're all being controlled. We just don't realize it. And so, why does education matter? Well, that's where it starts, because when we are born, we come in with this beautiful light, this auric field, this energy, this knowing, this innovation, this wisdom. And then the age of 5 to 6 is when we start to ground into our body and really integrate into the human experience. Well, it's very coincidental that that's when children go into school, into the school system, and then they start to become indoctrinated. And every year, they just get indoctrinated like an assembly line, and they get taught what they're supposed to be taught. the curriculum that they're supposed to learn, stay in the box, do not ask questions. And over time, art and creative activities and physical activities have been slowly cut out of the curriculum, and it's been more memorization, taking tests. And so, of course, these children that are coming in that are dynamic and um, multidimensional and very wise and have the high densities of consciousness are going to be labeled ADHD because of course they're imaginative, they're creative, they're thinking on like 1,000 revolutions per minute. They can't focus on one thing at a time because they're much more advanced than we are. They're not, our bodies aren't really meant to sit still for 6 hours a day and be lectured and then tested on it and then memorize and then tested and memorize and test, and that's how it is. And then we go in and we're productive members of society to keep the Loosch system going. So these kids are coming in and they're like, well, this isn't working for me. And then instead of developing proper resources, they are labeled, they are divided from everyone else, and they are now abnormal because they don't fit in with the normal parameters of the box that was created, because now they're outside of the box thinkers. So now that's a problem for the powers that were, because they don't want out of the box thinkers. They want everybody to be inside the box thinking a certain way, and that's how you control society. And so the way that we start change is by recognizing that there's a problem and these children are being labeled. Um, that's the first problem. We shouldn't be labeling these children. There's nothing wrong with them. They are unique and they are gifted and they're coming in for a reason so that they can be part of the change, and they all have different qualities and characteristics and gifts for what it is that they're here to do. And I can break that down even further. And the public school system um, is not working anymore. And so whether you have children or not, so those of you watching this right now, if you don't have children, why does this matter to you? And I always say to people, are you a human being? Do you care about the future of this planet and the generations to come? I think any human being that has compassion cares, regardless of if they have offspring or not. And so if we care about where this planet is going, and if we truly are going through an ascension and we are evolving, then our children are helping us to do that. But the adults need to stand up and create these new systems for them. So the paradigms are collapsing. We are rebuilding these new paradigms, and education is the focal point. And so I am working to create a new setup where it's conscious education, where children are outside, where they're exploring their passions, figuring out what they like, allowing and being given the opportunity to explore instead of being given a set curriculum and being compared to everyone else around them. We should not be comparing these children with each other because they have unique character. It's almost impossible in today's world in 2026 to take a group of children around the world and make charts and compare them. Like we used to do that, and now it's next to impossible because children are coming in with so many different skills and so many gifts. You cannot make normal ranges anymore. That's gone. Like that does not exist anymore. So it's about going, like throwing out the labels, recognizing that there's a problem, and then advocating for change. And right now we're in the stage of advocating for change. And so I happen to live in Florida, and it's a state where we are huge. Our governor here is a huge advocate for choice. And that's all I'm saying. We should have a choice. I'm not trying to take down all public schools, but if families have children with unique abilities who are not thriving in the public school environment and are out of the box thinkers that are innovative, that are struggling to be lectured and looshed upon, then they should be able to have a choice of doing something else. And there are a lot of parents and states that are slowly starting to see the problem, and the solution is choice. So I'm trying to create the choice. And this is just one choice, probably of many different choices. I hope that answered the question.
I love that. I love that you say it's a choice because that's empowerment, and we need a society that offers different options for where you are at your journey so that you have the freedom to choose and that it's not a one size fits all, especially as we're going through this great awakening and a rise in consciousness. And we have all these starseed children coming in with unique gifts and unique talents that are completely outside of the box, that are seen as a threat to the system. Um, So yeah, your work is amazing. And one of the things that I want to ask you before I hand it off to letting everyone else ask a few questions. Um, one of the things I've heard you talk about is the black box technology. And I talk about that too. I call it the black mirror technology, but it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And I see this as probably really on the forefront of one of the biggest problems we're dealing with today for not only children, but for adults. And I work with removing a lot of entity attachments from people. But what's coming through the black box or the black mirror technology is a different animal. It's machine technology, it's AI technology, and it's attaching to people in strange ways, like the voice to skull and the voice of God, and it's giving people issues with impulse control that is beyond anything that they can perceive because it's a remote frequency technology. So you don't have to be hooked up to it, but it's coming through these portals of our screen.
Mhm.
Can you share a little bit about how you, what that is and how people can protect themselves?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, and they go hand in hand. So black box technology and voice to skull or voice to God technology is also being referred to as that. Are they basically go to hand in hand. And it's all about frequency. So the frequency or the satellite of the black voice to skull technology emits frequencies. And the frequencies will hook into lower vibrational mindset. So if you're in a lower vibrational mindset, which many of us are, unfortunately, day to day, because we're stressed out, we're worried about money, dis-ease, anxiety, stress, whatever it might be, tiredness, whatever it is. And so we get hooked into this satellite technology. It's emitted at us, and then it hooks into people whose mind it can connect to, and it puts us in state of unease, in dis-ease, and it recycles negative affirmations. And it's gotten so bad that people are thinking of killing them, like thoughts of suicide. And I even found out about this technology because a child told me about it years ago, and they said, I don't want to go to school because every time I walk in the building, I hear voices in my head telling me I'm not good enough, my mom doesn't love me, I'm not smart. And that was the first time I'd ever heard of that. And then I started hearing it more in sessions from other children, and I'm like, this is a thing. And then I had sessions with adults, and that's how I discovered voice to God technology. And I said, this is emitted through EMFs, through the 3, 4, 5G towers, through AI technology, satellites, underground, above ground. I mean, any way you can possibly imagine, and through black box technology. So then the black box technology, what that does is invites it into your home. So any black box or mirror, as you call it, when it's turned off, it looks like a mirror. So a TV, a phone, iPad, a computer monitor, anything like that, and mirrors. They are portals. And so mirror portals are a little bit different. We're talking about the black box technology right now. Those are portals. And so they can open in your home when you're watching certain things, especially vulnerable children. That's why I really dislike TikTok because it's the biggest portal out there. So when these children are sitting there strolling through TikTok and watching videos, it doesn't have to be TikTok, it can be Instagram or anything else, and they're watching negative content, or their girls are feeling shameful because they're seeing all of these influencers with that are like have filters, and they have these impossible looks, and then these girls feel shame because they don't look like that. Then that activates the portal. Or you're watching a scary movie and you get afraid, and then you're watching paranormal stuff. That activates the portal. So the portals are activated when we have fear, shame, guilt, rage, anger, things like that. If we're watching a puppy and we're on a screen and it's joy and laughter, like that does not activate the portals. So that's why there's so much scary movies out there, and there's so much hypersexuality, because porn is a big one, or even just movies that have a hypersexuality. And the children's shows these days are more hypersexual than I've ever seen ever. I can't even believe some of the things that they allow that are child appropriate now. Those activate the portals. So they work hand in hand. And what they do is they allow the attachments to come through the devices, and then they attach to children, they attach to adults, and then you get maybe you become hypersexual because you have an entity that is encouraging you to watch porn all day, or you watched something sad, and now you have an entity that's coming in, and now you're feeling sad and depressed, and now you're having thoughts of suicide. So it works in many different ways, but it is heightened right now more than I've ever seen it before, and it's attacking our youth big time. And so they're having suicidal thoughts, they're having thoughts of shame, they're having thoughts of or just anxiety and unease, but it's also happening to the adults. So they work together.
They do, and I'm seeing it at such a heightened rate. I cannot even believe it because I think part of how it works is that you get into like a hypnotic state with a lot of technologies. So your guard is down. And even I've seen this happen even when the programming isn't that dark, but people are just so detached and kind of disassociated from themselves that something else is coming through. And we're not sharing this to scare people. This is an awareness. This is really detaching from the technology and using our screens at a minimum basis. And when you are using them, to be fully conscious, to not disassociate, to not get in a hypnotic state, because that's when things are coming through. And they are really using these black mirrors as much as they can to get to people, even in the spiritual community. And they've been using subliminals in television for years. So that's nothing new, and that's coming through as well. So just please be aware of that.
Well, can I just say something really important? Because knowledge is power. And so the only reason I talk about these things in my books, and I talk about them on stage in conferences and workshops, is exactly what you said. It's not meant to scare people. It's actually meant to inform. Because the cool thing about information, and that's why knowledge is power, is that it all it takes is intention. We are more powerful than they want us to know. So the way that you dismantle the portals in your home is quite simple. I have 5 TVs in my house, okay? I have 3 children and a husband who loves technology, okay? So we have a TV in pretty much every room. Everybody has a phone. Everyone has a computer. So I have black boxes up the you know what in my house. I'm not going to set them on fire. So what I do is I stand in my power and I teach my family, okay, well, you say you do not consent to any portals activated in your home and any device at any time. And I cannot stop, I can, but I'm a cool mom. So sometimes I let my children watch the scary movies they want to watch because they have friends over, and I'm not going to be like that weirdo that's like, no scary movies allowed. So I tell my daughter and I say, what do you say? And she'll say out loud in front of her friends, she'll be like, we do not consent to any portals being activated as a result of this movie. And I say, okay. And I walk upstairs, and then, but I mean, she says it like as a joke, but she's serious. She knows. I'm like, you have to take it serious. So it's all about knowing, and then you saying, I don't consent. And you simply by putting that statement of power, I do not consent to any, and what I say is, I do not consent to any 3D interference. So that I'm talking about technology that you're not even aware of, that I'm not even aware of, on top of the stuff I already know. I just say, I am so grateful that I am continuously on the highest possible timeline, and I do not consent to anything that pulls me away from that. And I claim my sovereignty, and I make statements like that all the time, and I teach children to do the same thing so that the technology doesn't work. And they know the technology doesn't work if we're smart enough to say we don't consent. The problem is that most of the population has no idea. So they buy the TVs, they watch the scary movie, they watch the porn, they watch this, they watch that, and the next thing you know, they have all these crazy paranormal things happening in their home because they've inadvertently invited in all these entities. And and they just don't know better. But all you got to do is just say no. And then you take the power back, and then you use the devices for what they're meant for. But you got to be careful and mindful of what you're watching and what you're using them for.
You're exactly right. The I do not consent is so powerful. I use that all the time myself because there's an energetic contract that happens when you give your attention to something. And again, this is where knowledge is power, because we're never taught this. And this is where your school is so important, because you're teaching children, listen, everything is almost an energy exchange to some degree or another. So if there's something going on that you don't want to be a part of, you just say, I do not consent. This is not a part of me, and you claim your sovereignty. And then there's not a problem. But we're never taught that. We don't know that. So
Right.
what I'd love to do is open it up. Who would like to ask Sherri a question? If you could raise your hand, and what I'll do is I'll just take the questions in order. Oh, Dita has a question. Dita, are you there? Do you want to
I
unmute?
see it's written out. Maybe she just wants me to. She said she's in the Tampa area, 7-year-old autistic, in parentheses, vaccines, grandson. I've tried to teach him telepathically, but he's made himself very separate. Any suggestions to initiate telepathic communication? He seems to like me, even though I hadn't seen him for over 5 years until recently. So the thing about so the thing about nonverbal children and telepathy, this is layered. First of all, yes, children can have autism because of vaccines, but I want to be very clear. I work with dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of children. I have thousands of clients, and I have countless children that I work with that are clearly autistic in the parameters of what it, what they're labeled for, and have never had a vaccine in their entire life. So it shows me that they can be autistic. I hate using that word. They can be labeled autistic because of their unique abilities that they're coming in. Some of these children is their first life in Earth, but they are advanced souls coming from somewhere else. Some of these are guardian spirits. Some of these are children are just so advanced that they come in with such unique abilities that they're beyond our scope of understanding, and they don't know how to be human, because we're a very primitive species in comparison to many. So a lot of them choose not to speak because they don't want to use our word spells. Some of them are in observation periods because they're not used to speaking, because they're a telepathic species. So they are in observation for years and years, and they just listen and they observe and they watch people and how they move their mouth and all these things. And they tell me that they're just observing. And then when the time is right, they just suddenly just start speaking in full sentences. And so there's a lot going on, and a lot of these children are here to teach us telepathic communication. So in this case, we think too much as humans. So likely when you use the word, I've tried to reach him telepathically, but he's made himself very separate. What that means is that you need to try to do it in times where you're separated, because that's the best time to do it. Because a lot of times they do dissociate, they disconnect, they're not present, and they're seemingly like somewhere else. And that is because they don't enjoy being in a human body. And so they do disconnect. And so it's very hard to telepathically communicate with a soul that's really not present in the moment. So if I were in your situation, what I would do is at home, when you're separate from him, I would put the intention out there to communicate with him and tell him to talk to you through your own thoughts, to give you messages. And it works every time. And then likely the next day or in a random time, you will start to develop a dialogue where you will recognize that the thoughts coming through are actually from this soul of this being, and they're talking to you. And it might be at times when you're not even together, if that makes sense. So the more we try, the more we persist, the harder it is, because our logical primal brain starts to take over, and it blocks us. And so the more logical and analytical we are about it, the less likely telepathy works. It's a right brain activity. We need to have heart-brain coherence. That's why that's so important to have both. But telepathic communication generally feels like they're your own thoughts. And most parents that have nonverbal children say they communicate with them just fine. They just know what they need. They don't even have a conversation. They're just like, I just know what they need, because they're communicating on a subliminal level that is more energetic. And likely this child, even though it was 5 years, he probably recognized her soul And that's why he felt comfortable, even though that much time had gone by. So I hope that honestly, it takes a long time. I could explain this for another 30 minutes, but that I don't have a lot of time to go into these in depth. Was that helpful?
That was great. Yeah, in telepathy communication, it is layered, and I love that you talked about the heart brain coherence and about this being about the right brain. Data, one of the things that helps as well that you can do connecting telepathically, especially with children, especially when they're nonverbal, is start that communication by really close your eyes and visualize yourself giving him a hug, heart to heart, and feel your heart connecting with his heart. And I do this with my own children when they need a healing, or I want to send them something, or I want to send them love. I feel the hug, I feel the love, I feel that connection. And it makes that telepathy go through stronger because the emotion is a big piece of getting the communication and the frequency right when you're trying to communicate that way. So that was a great question and brilliant answer. Thank you so much, Sherri. I'm going to read the next question to you from Sweet Stacy in the UK. She says, "Hi, Sherri. I have a question, but first want to thank you for all that you do. I've been watching your videos, read your books, and you resonate, and I've learned a lot from you. So, do you think this black box technology, voice to skull, was designed in particular to disrupt and cause harm to those more sensitive souls, example, crystal, children, etc., to take them off their path or mission? I've noticed it doesn't seem to affect everyone the same." Great question.
The unequivocal answer to that is absolutely yes. And I've done a lot of interviews and tried to explain this in my book. The simple answer is everybody on this planet, everybody that comes in this planet has an energetic signature. So as soon as you go through the birth portal and you come through the etherical realm, you are stamped. Everyone knows the powers that were, the entities, the astral realm. They know everybody that's here and what your capabilities are. So when heavy groups of starseeds started to come through. By the way, in the 80s, when SIDS was really like a common thing, that was a nefarious act where they were going in the astral realm and disconnecting the life force energy of babies that had important lives. And so they literally massacred, killed all those children that died of SIDS because that was a nefarious act of psychic attack essentially. So they knew they were already trying all the way back then to stop the special children from coming through. So they knew that we weren't going to stop and we were going to be coming in more powerful. So they knew that this was going to occur. So they created vaccines and put toxins in them. They created the chemtrails. They created the toxins in our food. They created sugar addiction. They created all of the everything that they have done, not everything, a lot of it, plus black box technology, plus voice to skull, all of those things have been designed nefariously so that they can make sure to block, suppress, and stop the high frequency children coming through, like the newer generations, in any way possible, so that they could create these labels, make humanity believe in it, think something is wrong with them. Oh my God, my son can't sit still for 6 hours. Well, no, their kids are supposed to be running outside all day. Like, but now they program us adults, a lot of people to be like, yeah, why can't your child sit still for 6 hours? Shame on them. That's bad. And like all of these lies that they have created and people believe, and they're all nefarious. And so basically what they do is that they are creating an agenda and nefariously a narrative, and we go along with it as humanity and believe it, and then now we medicate them, and the medication was their ultimate the grand finale is let's just get the parents to agree and consent to medicate all of them, and then that basically dims their light and lowers their vibration and then connects them to the 3D grid. So all of this, for the most part, has been designed to suppress and block because these children are disruptors. But I will tell you, the children coming in the last 10 years or so, the rainbow children are the strongest. They are the disruptors, and the technology is nothing is working on them, and it's pissing off the dark ones because they're not affected by any of this stuff, even the vaccines, even the food. and they are just they don't know what to do anymore because they are disrupting and breaking down the matrix. So simple answer to Stacy's question is yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Great question and great answer. You know, this attack on the children, and just like you said, Sherri, they know who we are when we come in, we get stamped. For those of you that don't know, I'm a walk-in soul from 2012 and came in during that time. Well, actually, I walked in 2011 for 2012 timeline convergence, but there was a big strategy behind being a walk-in because I came in with a fleet, and the whole part of the purpose behind that was to avoid our childhoods because we didn't want to be targeted because they were taking out the children, like Sherri said. And so there's a whole big strategy behind this. So my whole point being is just know that there is so much positive intervention going on, and that is what each one of you are here. You guys are the intervention. You guys are the disclosure. You are part of why you're here tonight, and part of all the work that you're bringing to the world is because of who you are as a starseed, um, and you're creating this future for these amazing children and for the future generations, whether you have children or not. Because I know you guys, and I know your souls, and I know how much love and how much truth you bring into the world. Um, so let's do one more question from Linda.
Oh man, this is really powerful. Yeah, I'm a grandma with five grandkids, and but way back when my youngest was 12, that was about 30 years ago. Um, I realized, and we didn't even talk about ADD or ADHD too much in that space, but he was ADD, and I learned how to teach him just by motherhood, how
Mhm.
to live life this way. I didn't know it at the time my husband also was ADD. I've learned that through the years. My daughter, and in that class of 12-year-old little boys, all the boys, they were autistic, all this, climbing on things. It was just awful. And the persecution that those children went through.
Mhm.
And I was an educator and a church educator and a youth minister and all these things with kids, and then I have kids. And then my daughter in her earlier she marries an ADHD, and those two older grandkids, they've just been on the spectrum diagnosed. And so I mean this is just massive for me, and I agree with everything you say. I am so excited. I just praise
Yeah.
the work you're doing, and I have kids in their 40s that don't understand what you're saying, and they've got kids, and I don't know what to do with it, because they're not listening to me, but it's obvious. And the two littlest ones, one of them's just turned 4 and the other one is 7, and perhaps even the 11-year-old, they're absolutely rainbow kids. They come in screaming and
Mhm.
singing and noise, and it's just I love watching it because there's no doubt, if you're awake, what's going on with these children. But I also work with adults that were also in the entrapment of the autism, and so I figured a lot of this out, but I've been put back, in my own growth and walking through this. And so you've just like lit a fire in me I can hardly contain right now. So thank you, thank you,
Oh,
thank you. And I will be getting in touch with you.
thank you.
Thank you
I
so
mean, that's the
much.
point. I thank you so much, Linda, for those beautiful words. I mean, I think I'm supposed to light a fire under people. I mean, I've literally done presentations in front of 1,000 people, and I've had people, just the whole audience, in tears because they're like, I cannot believe, like no one has ever explained it in this way before. And this is all like tonight. I mean, this was just an hour of me. There's so much I can say. There's so much more to it. There's so much these children have to offer us. And the important thing is for this group as adults is that we are activating, we are active, we are awakening, we are becoming more aware of our density of consciousness, and our wisdom is coming through, and we are the loop breakers. So we are ancestral, we are healing our ancestry, and it stops with us. So the loop systems, the addictions, the codependency, the lack of self-worth, the enslavement, the dis-ease, all of it is supposed to stop with our generations, because there's a couple generations in this group right now, so that our children can have a clean slate and they can move forward and bring in even more advanced children, and we can really create the earth that we are, what we are working towards, and truly evolve as a species. But we are the bridge souls. So the indigos are the bridge. So we are here to hold the space. We are the way showers. We are the rebels, the black sheep, the ones that are the woo-woo conspiracy theorists that a lot of us have been kicked out of the house, called the crazies. I've heard it all. I mean, I have clients that I've literally worked with that are from the age of in the womb till hospice. So I've literally worked with every age. I have clients that I've worked with all over the world. I have heard it. I think every time I think I've heard it all, there's something else. But the point is that we are the co-creators. So the adults matter. Every single one of you matters. Everyone in the world matters because what we project out into the world is what we're co-creating right now. So if you are focusing on doom and gloom, and the end of the world, then that is the timeline you are choosing to be in. That is the energy that you are putting out into the universe. These children need us to stand up for them and create the foundation by co-creating the world that they need us to create for them. And it's our job as the bridge souls. We are the ones that are helping break the paradigms, stand up for them, advocate for them, and help create new policies so then they can come in and then take over. But it starts with us. We have to be the ones to stand up, speak out, take our kids out of school, create, I mean, there's so many things I could say. I could just keep talking forever.
Well, Sherri, you're just amazing. And I have an image of your website. Is this the best way for people to get a hold of you or to find your information is
Yeah, that
sherridivband.com?
That's my main website. So that's the one that people can get a hold of me to do one-on-one sessions. And then I do sessions with children on there as well. And then all my information for all of my books are on there. I do have my own YouTube channel. I have some really great content. I highly recommend people go and watch. I do a lot of videos on there with different recommendations and things like that. And then if you're interested in learning more about Aramis, and what I do with children and to help support our nonprofit, the website for that is aramiscreativelearning.com. And we have classes every month where we offer for children to learn all the metaphysical things that they're not being taught in school. And quick announcement, I haven't even said this publicly, but I have such a great group, and no one is doing this for money. Everybody really genuinely wants to help children. The month of February, every class is free. And we're doing that as just a gift to humanity. I mean, the classes are already cheap, in my opinion. They're $22 for an hour. Basically, our mentors are volunteering their time. But for the month of February, every class we offer is free for anybody who wants to join, as long as it's within the parameters of how many we can accommodate. So come check it out and be part of the change and tell everybody about us and what we're doing. And if anyone wants to support and donate and be part of co-creating these learning centers, we are looking for angel donors to help us with that as well.
Sherri, can people donate on, do they go to aramiscreativelearning.com to donate or can they do it on your?
Yes, but on my website, if you click more, I think there's something like a link to Aramis through my main website as well to get you to. So they're all connected.
Okay.
Everything.
You know what I'll do, guys? I'll put it all together when I send this out, the recording, and when I post it on my website, I'll put all the links below. So if you want to donate, you can click the donate, and then you can get to the different sites. Yeah, please follow Sherri. Please support her. Sherri, I can't thank you enough for your time and everything that you do. Um, you're just an angel and a shining light for all of us and our children, which is the one thing that will unify us. If there's anything we can all get behind to stop this divide and conquer, it's going to be the kids. It's going to be.
Absolutely. They are the future, and we need to invest our time and energy in supporting them. And so, what could be better, right? Is my opinion. Like, what else could we be doing?
Yeah, it's so true. And for those, I want to remind you, I have a class coming up. I want everyone to have this information. I'm going to be talking about how to remove entities. There's all different kinds of entities, disembodied spirits, what they are. I'm going to teach what they are, where they're coming from, how to get rid of them. You're going to get a whole like a step-by-step guide. So if you're interested in signing up, go to my website, earthbishop.com. I'll put this in the link as well, because this is critical information, especially for right now. And for those that are new to Earth Bishop, and you want to be part of 5D Chess Club, just fill out one of these forms. I don't send out a lot of emails, but you'll get the email and the Zoom link. Or you can just go to my website, and I always post it on this 5D Chess Club tab. So everything that you would want is going to be on there. And all this information from tonight is going to be on there as well, so that you can find Sherri, you can buy her books, you can get involved with Aramis and everything that she's doing for the children. So thank you all for your time tonight and your dedication to humanity and making this world a better place. We're doing this from the ground up, from grassroots. This is the way it needs to be done. Everyone has a role to play. So thank you all so much for being here tonight. I love you all so much.
Thanks everybody for having me. I really